for the reason that the articles had not been before in the thicket, having been deposited there only so late a period as the date, or shortly prior to the date of the communications, by the guilty authors of these communications themselves. This thicket was a singular and exceedingly singular one. It was unusually dense. Within its naturally walled enclosure were 3 extraordinary stones, forming a seat with a back and a footstool, and this thicket, so full of art, was in the immediate vicinity, within a few rods of the dwelling of Madame de Luc, whose boys were in the habit of closely examining the shrubberies about them in search of the bark of sassafras. Would it be a rash wager, that wager of 1,000 to 1, that a day never passed over the heads of these boys without finding at least one of them ensconced in the umbrageous hall, and enthroned upon its natural throne? Those who would hesitate at such a wager have either never been boys themselves or have forgotten the boyish nature. I repeat, it is exceedingly hard to comprehend how the articles could have remained in this thicket undiscovered for a longer period than 1 or 2 days, and that thus there is good ground for suspicion, in spite of the dogmatic ignorance of Le Soleil, that they were, at a comparatively late date, deposited were found. But there are still other and stronger reasons for believing them so deposited than any which I have as yet urged. And now let me beg your notice to the highly artificial arrangement of the articles. On the upper stone lay a white petticoat. On the second, a silk scarf scattered around with a parasol, gloves, and a pocket handkerchief bearing the name Marie Roget. Here's just such an arrangement as would be naturally made by a not over-acute person wishing to dispose of the articles naturally, but it is by no means a really natural arrangement. I should rather have looked to see the things all lying on the ground and trampled underfoot. In the narrow limits of that bower, it would have been scarcely possible that the petticoat and the scarf should have retained a position upon the stones, when subjected to the brushing to and fro of the many struggling persons. There was evidence, it is said, of a struggle, and the earth was trampled. The bushes were broken, but the petticoat and the scarf were found deposited as if upon shelves. The pieces of the frock torn out by the bushes were about 3 inches wide and 6 inches long. One part of the hem of the frock and it had been mended. They looked like strips torn off. Here, inadvertently, Le Soleil has been employed an exceedingly suspicious phrase. The pieces, as described, do indeed look like strips torn off, but purposely and by hand. It is one of the rarest of accidents that a piece of is torn off from any garment, such as in now question, by the agency of a thorn. From the very nature of such fabrics, a thorn or nail becoming entangled in them tears them rectangularly, divides them into 2 longitudinal rents at right angles with each other, and meeting at an apex where the thorn enters, but it is scarcely possible to conceive the piece torn off. I never knew it. I never so knew it, nor did you. To tear a piece off from such a fabric, 2 distinct forces in 2 different directions will be, in almost every case, required. If there be 2 edges to the fabric, if, for example, it be a pocket handkerchief, and it is desired to tear from it a slip, then only will the one force serve the purpose. But in the present case, the question is of a dress, presenting but one edge. To tear a piece from the interior where no edge is presented could only be effected by a miracle through the agency of thorns, and no one thorn could have accomplished it. But even where an edge is presented, 2 thorns will be necessary, operating in 2 distinct directions, and the other in one. And this is the supposition that the edge is unhemmed. If hemmed, the matter is greatly out of question, nearly out of question.